Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we have yet another reel in the bag project. We have one that came in because the anti-reverse wasn't working, and they were kind enough to start me with the disassembly of the reel. I checked all the pieces and found that we were missing the anti-reverse spring, and there's a little spring that belongs in this notch here that's going to move the dog in and out on a friction-led basis that rides off of the anti-reverse click ratchet. So I had to go out and order the spring, and I thought as long as I am going to be putting this reel back together, we'll show you, well, if you have a reel apart, how to put it back together again. If you have a curiosity about the anti-reverse dog spring and how that gets installed, you'll see that. And general maintenance of the reel, since we're pretty much down to nothing left in the reel at the moment. But the Penn SpinFisher series still has a lot of parts availability, and this was the part we were looking for. It's a little circular spring with a tab that faces up, and for whatever reason this one got dislodged. I couldn't find it inside, so I'm wondering if somebody didn't start the maintenance process ahead of me, lost the spring, lost the anti-reverse function, and then called Dennis. So one way or another, this is how the spring installs. It's got a circular piece on it. It runs around here. You'll notice that there's a groove or a track inside that cog. And the point on this faces up, which is almost illogical. You almost think that that's going to run into the teeth, but it's in all reality, the reach goes to the dog, not to the teeth. So you're okay in terms of getting this set. So again, set it with the tab end on the left if you're looking at that, the angular piece on the right, and the piece pointing up, and that'll help you with the reassembly. There's a lot missing on this reel. I did notice it may have been taken apart because this little bump guard for the pinion gear has broken off. I found that in the case. That's this little piece here, but you can run the reel without that piece, so don't worry too much if you found that one there. All right, what we want to do then is we want to take the pinion gear. As long as we're doing kind of a servicing along with this, go ahead and get your grease brush out. And we're going to put some grease onto the bottom of the pinion gear. These have all been cleaned. I had been waiting for the part, so I did take the time to clean it. Get a little bit of grease where it's going to go through the bearing. Then come on in from underneath and insert that pinion shaft up. You have a bearing in there. This was all tested ahead. You can just go ahead and oil the bearing. If you need to replace the bearing, pull these two screws out and you can lift that assembly up. We have that collar now for that anti-reverse, and we're going to aim that little hook up with the slot in this dog. Now, some of you may have an older version of the 4500. That older version will have a forked tooth anti-reverse on it, and you will not find this setup. If you have the forked tooth and the reel is not operating properly, go ahead and lightly pinch the two prongs together. Maybe use a needle nose pliers or something to do the pinching. Don't pinch it to the point where both forks touch, just enough that it has the tension on both sides of that click ratchet, and then you can go ahead and that should restore the function. All right, find the two flat sides to that mount over that pinion shaft. Go ahead and push down and mate that angular piece into the slot here. So you have this angled part of the spring in the slot. You have the anti-reverse dog pretty much touching at this point. Go ahead and give it a test. Spin the reel. You'll see as you're cranking that the dog is pulling out. And as soon as you go to back pedal, that dog is coming in. So that's a properly operating anti-reverse dog. Crank and it moves out. Back it up and it moves in to set the anti-reverse. Okay, with that I'm going to just go ahead and reinstall the reel now. So if you want to hang around and see how the rest of the reel goes together, please be my guest. If you want to jump out at this point, let me do a couple of things before you jump. The first is to thank our first responders and essential personnel for everything it is that they do. during the pandemic especially. They've been our local hometown heroes, and their efforts truly are appreciated. If you know one of these folks, please say thank you to them. They really are putting it out on the line every day, and they are an inspiration to all, how they can maintain their sense of ethics and work issues and everything, fighting this disease every day, in and out. Okay, tighten that down. Give it a spin if you like. Test that anti-reverse. Oh, nice. Aries is going to be happy. All right, we have the crosswind gear on there. Again, a lot of this has been cleaned, so I'm not going to take you through taking all the pieces and parts, but get a good amount of grease onto that crosswind gear. When you go to set your crosswind gear, bring that stud all the way down. This is the stud I'm referring to. You got a bearing in the back there. Go ahead and make sure that the bearing gets oiled. In this case, these look like sealed bearings. They may have been replaced at one point. All right, next up then, you want to put your main gear in. Again, it's been cleaned. I checked all of the teeth to make sure that they were uniform. There weren't any cracks or chips or anything broken with it other than that. It had a lot of grease in it because it's been a while since it was serviced. We'll go ahead and get the grease on. You don't need to get the grease in every tooth. Then make sure you get the grease on the back part of this gear, as that's the one that's going to drive the crosswind gear. And that crosswind gear is going to drive your oscillation block. And as they say, there was a crooked man who built a crooked house, right? All right, go ahead and get that gear set in there. Before I do that, I probably want to do the other thing. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is to please subscribe if you like these videos before you leave. Please subscribe. If you do subscribe, hit the notification button. That way you'll see all of the reels that I work on. And I'm sure you have a favorite out there, whether it's freshwater, saltwater, spinning, conventional, bait casting, whatever. And I kind of touch them all. So if you do subscribe, you'll be able to see the ones I'm working on. And that will give you the opportunity to go see how those reels come apart, what some of the problems are that I need to solve, and how they go back together again. All right, now I'm going to put that gear back in. And once you have that gear in, now you can go ahead and install your axle shaft. I'm just going to wipe off the older greases and oils. Just a light coat of grease on this. Again, that pinion gear has pretty tight tolerances up top here. Some of the reels now, like the Fierce reels, and that actually come with a little plastic grommet that goes in there, and that kind of will squeeze out all of the grease that you put on there. So just a light coating. Work that axle shaft through. You want to bring it down to the point where the flat portion of the axle shaft kind of runs parallel to that. There's that little clamp now. There's the block for both. Gonna install that. And this is where I usually tell people go for a cup of coffee, because I'm working with small screws, and me and small screws, well, we just don't seem to get along too well there. And I was just looking in my parts tray for those two small screws. I found one. That always gets me a little nervous. Okay, find the small screw. I put a little dab of grease on there because, well, me and small screws don't get together. So if you have a question on this reel, if you'd like to see something that maybe you're stuck on, like how do I install that spring there, just shoot me a note in the comments section. If I have the time and if I have the reel in my shop, I'll be happy to take you through it. Probably do a video, because a video is worth a whole lot more than just listening to me talk, if you can see it. I myself am a sight learner, so if you happen to be one of those, I'll be happy to do a video for you. And if you have that question, ask it. And again, if I have the time and if I have the reel, I'll be happy to do that for you. All right, 4 side plate screws go on. Now I checked when I took these out of those parts tray. I wanted to make sure that all of these screws were the same, so they can go in any slot, given that they are the same. All right, we're going to tighten these down. Phone just rang. I had to cut to an edit there. All All right, we're going to just tighten the 4 screws down. I like to do it in an X pattern to keep the tension on there equal. So if you like this video, please like it, and that'll, I guess, help improve whatever rankings YouTube does. I'm kind of not familiar with that stuff at all. I'm just kind of happy to do what I'm doing, sitting at my shop, doing the video while I repair customers' reels, and anything from YouTube is kind of a side thing, right? So it's important to get the reels fishing again. That's what the second chance is all about. And if you enjoy it, if you want to see them, the subscription works. If you do like, I understand it helps in the rankings, so please go ahead and do that if you like the video. There's a C-clip in here. I'm just going to check the spool. We've cleaned up the rest. And I use a little pick here to pull that C-clip. That is a spring. So you want to make sure that you keep your finger on it as you're taking it out, because you don't want that to shoot. We should have HT100 drags in here. We do. We have one sitting in the bottom. I'm just checking them. These seem to be fine. They're nice and clean. You don't have to put dry grease on these. It's optional. These look like they're pretty new. I'll put that last top washer on. But you do want to check these when you go do your service, and the reason for that is that the top drag fishing reels take all of the water from the line coming in on the reel. It's going to come in here. Now, Penn did a nice little effect here. They put a rim here, but it doesn't keep all the water out. But it's got nowhere to go, so it'll run inside there, and it will clog those drags if you don't pay attention. All right, just going to try and get this last part in here. It's not quite seated. If you're having trouble with these Penn reels, turn it upside down. That'll align the drag washers. And you can come back on the other side and set them in. Get this, not yet. There we go. All these little tips along the way. All right, we're going to give this a crank. Generally speaking, when you service your reel, go ahead and put a drop of oil onto the 2 seams where the bail arms meet the rotor, and put a little bit on your line roller, even if it doesn't have a ball bearing in there. All right, we've oiled up all of the bearings. We've greased all the gears. Put that main gear, put the handle back on, give it a spin. Spinning nicely. How about that anti-reverse? Oh, we got an anti-reverse again. There you go. All right, this reel's ready to go fishing again. Just give it a test here, make sure that bail works while we're at it. It does. So that's it. That's how you set that little bail spring, the eccentric spring, rotor spring. I said a bail spring, that's incorrect. The little eccentric spring that sits on the pinion shaft and controls your anti-reverse on the later versions of the Model 4500 SS Penn SpinFisher. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Please stay safe, stay well, stay watching, and have a great day.